Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Welcome to the Sunday chat about all sorts of nonsense and stuff made up as I go along normally. I have an outline plan, a couple of topics, but that's it. You know, I don't do scripts and stuff like that. You get what you're given. Right. Most important really is the orchids and what's going on out here. And I'll expand that into what might be going on with your own orchids. The main thing to consider is Northern Hemisphere, you're in the growing season. Now some of you have possibly been in it longer than others. Why do I say that? Different growing environments. I've got a north facing conservatory, so I get good light when the amount of daylight is good enough for the plants. So that's weather dependent. Now if you had a south facing conservatory, you can get ridiculous temperatures in February. So that can have an influence on your plants. It could start things into growth a little bit earlier than perhaps they ought to, or certainly earlier than me, because my growing season starts late. Without the sun, I don't get the extra free heat. Any heat that I have to have in the colder times is via a heater, and as we all know, energy is very expensive at the moment, which is why I switched to growing cooler growing orchids, so that that thing doesn't have to be on as much as it would have been had I kept my warmer growers, things like the likes of the cattleyas and things. And others might grow in the home, and you might think, well, that's not weather dependent. Well, yes it is actually. If you think about it, if you're going through a cold spell, yeah, you've possibly popped your heating on just for an hour or so, take the chill off the place. That's going to dry your air, depending on your heating type, but most people are sort of radiators or warm air of some sort. It's going to dry your air out. That can have an effect on your plants. The effect it's going to have in the main, if it's not a dramatic drop in humidity, is that the plants will transpire faster. Yeah? They're going to lose more moisture than perhaps you're giving them. Yeah? So you might need to look at your watering frequency. And if you're one of those that does it by the calendar, well, first of all I suggest you stop and water your plants when your plants need it, rather than because it's Sunday or something like that. Now it might be that work or lifestyle or whatever dictates that that's the only day you can do it. Well, that's the best you can do then. But you know, if you have the opportunity to water on different days, then I suggest you water when the plants need it. And that will vary. Like out here, if the ambient temperature outside is cold, then I will be heating overnight and opening this door during the day and sacrificing some of my house heat. That's what happens in the winter time. I don't worry so much about humidity in the winter because there's enough ambient humidity given off by the plants out here and their pots and things like that to not have to worry about it. However, the change comes when the sun starts hitting this roof. Which is during May, beginning of May, end of April, beginning of May, and it starts creeping up. It's almost at its full extent now because we're heading towards the longest amount of daylight available in the UK. And that will mean on a sunny day this place gets warm. Rise in temperature, plants using up more moisture, giving off more moisture, dehydrating quicker than they would normally do. Hence the humidifier is now out. Now that's not on a humidistat. I can't be bothered to set it up. It wouldn't get used often enough. I just do it manually. On the grounds I'm here most of the time. So when I need it I turn it on, and I've got a little gadget over there that tells me roughly what the relative humidity is. So if it's like now I've got that door open, it's dropped down from 83 to 79. By the time I've finished waffling, it'll probably be down to about 75. But we're only at 20, 21 degrees. That's plenty of humidity at that temperature. The sun's not out and it's not particularly warm outside. What we're having now is a weather that is more conducive to my growing environment, because it's not cold out but it's not too warm and there's no sun. So I've got good, bright, even light. Yeah, that's what the plants need. And it's not too warm, which means the cooler growers, which is most of the orchids in here, are happy. So they're growing. When it gets too warm in here, if it's over a prolonged period, some of the orchid types in here will stop growing. Things like the cotyledons do not like too much heat. So a couple do. There are a couple of cotyledon species that are warmer growers, but not many. Things like the Masdevallias, Draculas, the odont type oncidiums, they don't want to get warm. And quite a few of my dendrobiums are cooler growers as well. Again, they don't mind a bit of heat in the daytime, but not overly warm, and it's the prolonged period that can do the damage and stop growth. So what's your watering frequency? I mean, my watering frequency now, comes around quite a bit quicker than it has done. I was up to 11, 12 days in the winter time. That sounds an awful long time for plants to go without water. They're not growing in the winter. There's not enough light. The light is dull in the UK in the winter, often drizzly, and we did have a lot of rain in the spring, hell of a lot. So, it's dull, and the amount of daylight hours is short, so there's not much happening. Well, if there's not much happening, they're not going to use the water, so there's not a lot of point in keep pouring it in. You only pour it in at the point they get to in what you call the watering cycle for that plant. Now, with some plants, they like to go totally dry in between watering, and that could take 2 weeks. It's too long, really. It's too long, but that could be how long it takes. They might need to get close to dry, so those would come round a bit frequently. And then there are those that should stay constantly moist. Well, when they're not growing much, that's just damp, not soggy or wet, just very slightly damp, just enough to stop them dehydrating. So basically, watch your watering frequencies when the weather changes, because it will affect your plants, even in the house. It will affect your plants. And it affects mainly your watering frequency, how often they come round to needing watering. And it's like an art form. It's something you learn over years. You can't get it out of a book. Videos might help, I suppose, but it's down to experience, really, and experience with your plants. It's no good going to somebody else and watching them water and listening to what they do. Their growing environment's not yours. It's different. So what they do might not help you at all. So go steady. Try and get your own ways that work for you. And that'll do your plants the world of good then. And they'll do as best they can for you in your environment. That's all anybody can ever hope for, quite honestly. And just hope it's good enough and they don't do that. Some will do that anyway, get me wrong. That will happen. Now, workload coming up. I've still got a few repots to do, and we're getting to the point now where the cymbidiums are going to need doing. My tiger tail has now finished blooming, and that is the last cymbidium bloom. That went over a few days ago. It was on the floor when I came in the morning. Well, they were. The whole spike dropped overnight. So that's now in a position where it can be split up and the divisions repotted into smaller pots. So that's to be done. I'm not rushing because I'm not sure it's coming into growth yet. I can do it before it comes into growth, but it would be better to wait until I can see those little new growths poking out. Then I can decide how big a division is based on the number of existing bulbs that will be left and how many new growths it's got, which I won't know if I don't wait. Yeah. So again, it's wait for the plant to be in the right state if you've got the choice. We have done one Cymbidium repot that was an emergency. We'll have a look at that now actually, as I'm talking about it. It's just caught the corner of my eye. And this was the one that needed wiring to hold it in position. And what we're hoping for is that the rot didn't get into the whole plant. But the leaved bulb is a bit shriveled. It's still firm. That's the important thing. It's not soft. I don't think it's not going to grow anymore, and our new growth is okay. It's pushing on. I don't see new roots coming out the bottom, but this had plenty of roots. This piece that was left after the division still had good enough roots on it. So I think it's probably going to make it, but that's now 2 years off blooming, you know. So the old part of the plant had to go. It was rotting, and I was afraid it was going to get into the rest of the plant. It still might. That plant still might not be rescued. I'm only assuming it is. So it just fell over. Let's lean it against the other one. That's better. It's still lopsided, so and it needs watering basically, because obviously it's new bark, so dries incredibly quickly. That's something else you need to consider. You know, newly repotted plants, unless they're in something that holds a lot of moisture like moss or fibrous things like that, then if it's in bark, a bark baked mist, it's going to dry flipping quick. You need to keep on top of that, because that will have a completely different cycle to plants that are potted in bark that has had chance to age a bit. Not enough to go off. Quite honestly, it takes quite a long time for bark to go off. It is dependent, it's not dependent on how old the bark is when you use it, providing it's kept bone dry. It'll last a hell of a long time. My bark will probably last longer than me. But yeah, it will depend on how wet you need to keep it for the type of plant that's in it. Yeah, and if it's one that needs to have moisture all the time, the bark won't last as long once it's used and gets wet. It will start to age, but you're still looking at least a couple of years. I mean, I tend to think that 3 years is enough. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, okay, I haven't got funds coming out my ear holes. I'm not a well-off person. So I don't like wasting things, but nonetheless I don't like losing plants. So you have to offset, like, you know, if I pay 15-20 quid for a reasonable sized bag of bark, you know, that may do 30 plants, 20-30 plants. Break that down to the cost per plant, therefore the cost of replacing the bark. It shouldn't even be a consideration, should it really? Don't leave your stuff in pots too long. It doesn't do them any good. I mean, it is said, it's written in the old scrolls and the runes, that Paphiopedilums enjoy being repotted. I don't think plants enjoy anything. They haven't got one of these, have they? But they do have a mechanism that can respond to environmental factors and changes. And it is said that they will perk up if they get some fresh media. I have yet to see that, so I'm not saying it's a fact, I'm just saying it is said that. If ever you hear me say it is said that, or I read once, that's not knowledge. That's not the same thing. That's not knowledge, it's not experience, it's what somebody else said. And it might have worked for them and it might not work for you, which is why I always separate that away. And a lot of the stuff that's written in the old runes and the scrolls and all that sort of stuff, you know, it is said here, all that sort of stuff, it's out of date and can actually be fundamentally wrong. But it's still there and it's still in that book. That book might be 50, 60 years old. You know, it'll be talking about chemicals that have been banned 30 years. So, you know, you need to go careful what you read. You also need to go careful what you watch on, you know, places like YouTube and the various other social media places. And a little word of warning that you might not even be able to, you might not even know it's going on, but watch out for AI stuff. I've got tools in there where I could go in and generate a video with a soundtrack all about an orchid using AI. I've got no evidence that it'll be correct. I mean, if you do a search on Google nowadays, the first answer you get will be from AI. They've put that as the high priority. So that's the first answer you get. You've got no guarantee that's right. But given the amount of data it's capable of looking at to produce those words that it sticks in front of you, it is quite likely to be okay. There's no guarantee. So watch what you're up to. I still say that one day in the future you won't even need to get up in the morning. You just need to lean out of bed and press a button that says do Monday, and you just turn over and go back to sleep. And then things and gadgets and stuff will just do Monday for you, you know. We shall see. I think people will come away from it all. I think people will want to go back to doing things for themselves. You know, there's a lot of people now are sort of getting a lot of pleasure from going for a walk in the woods or going for a stroll along the river that they might not have done 10 years ago because they're too busy playing on their phone or staring at a screen. And sometimes the getting back to nature, as it's called, has surprising health benefits. It really does, providing you're fit enough and able to do it. So I notice that's always said now in events where you've got somebody doing announcements and, like, you know, they want everybody to stand and give a round of applause. Those of you that are able, could you stand? So they're catering for people who can't stand up. It's great, you know, inclusive and all that sort of stuff. Talking about inclusive, I'm sure an amount of the rest of the world apart from the UK will have heard about the awful happenings recently in this country, where a young lad on his way home from a night out was basically attacked and stabbed many times. The police were called and arrived and handcuffed him and arrested him. And when he said, I can't breathe, I've been stabbed, the police officer on video was heard to say, I bet you haven't, mate. Or I don't think you have, mate. And that's our police force. Now, out of the officers involved, one of them has resigned. I hope it was that one, because you don't deserve that job. Basically, the individuals and the whole family joined in. The one individual that stabbed the guy, all the family are out the door supporting him. He's just murdered a youngster. His mum hid the knife. I'd lock them all up. You can't go out and have a night out now and walk home safely. That's what it's coming to. And I managed to do that without mentioning any race or colours. You can get that from the videos. The video went viral. Police camera videos, not somebody else filming, although I'm sure there were others there. But, well, somebody must have called the police. Somebody did. Anyway, an appalling event. We'll have an investigation, we'll open an inquiry. Yeah, that's what they all do. And then they'll say, we have put changes in place. And does anything change? No, very rarely. So that's the way it is. It's the way it's been allowed to go. And now it's the way it is. And it's going to take brave people to take it back how it once was. I think the expression a lot of what they call right-wing people is, we want our country back. We want to feel safe on our own streets. Yeah, we want our kids to be able to play in the park safely. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. Some events around the world. I mean, we've still got Ukraine doing its stuff. One thing that's come out of that is they are now the most technologically advanced in non-manned warfare, i.e. drones, that's undersea, underwater, wheeled, flying, all that type of stuff. They're now the best at it. And eventually, when they can, the rest of Europe are going to have to learn from them, because that is the way things will be in the future. Yeah, you've already seen it happening in the Middle East. You know, there's lots of boats, lots of ships, there's lots of planes and this, that and the other. Well, planes have still got people sat in them, but there's an awful lot of things flying around that haven't got people sat in them, and they're doing an awful lot of damage. They're getting more accurate and more powerful, and that's going to be the way forward. Everybody sits in offices in darkened rooms with screens and little joysticks, and that'll be what is called war. And who gets blown up and damaged and loses their homes? The ordinary people, of course. Yeah, and let's hope it don't come to your country, if it isn't already there. And if it is, you have my sympathies, because the ordinary people can't do anything. You know. There's parts of the world now are just not nice places to be. And often it's not a result of anything that the people have done. They've done nothing wrong. It's like the ordinary people in Ukraine. They've done nothing wrong, but they're the ones that are suffering for it. But, you know, and they were a lot stronger than anticipated. And, even though one of their main supporters, allegedly, has a mind elsewhere, and others have had to step up and step in, they're not doing bad on their own. Okay, they need the financial support and some of the weaponry and this, that and the other, but yeah. I think the other side are beginning to realise that they're not really winning. They're not gaining a lot. They certainly haven't done what they anticipated, which was walk in and take over a couple of months. I think we're into year 5 now, and they're still not much further on than they were 2 years ago. And they're starting to lose ground in places, and they're starting to get some of their own medicine. Yeah. They don't like it. Tough. I think the more of their own medicine they get, the more they might actually wake up and realise what they've done is stupid. They're not going to win, if you can ever win that sort of thing. Why not just let it go? But then the individual involved, I'm sure a lot of the people would love to just let it go. And just put it down to experience and not do something silly like that again. But the individual that's driving it won't give up. Lose face. And it's funny, certain races, certain countries, that is a real big thing. Losing face is something that cannot happen under any circumstances. So, you know, it's a big deal for that individual. Yeah, and for some others, you know, there are certain other heads of countries that just cannot stand to lose anything. You know, they don't even want to lose the toss of a coin. Monkeys. But yeah, there's some places that are Not doing that well. Not doing that well at all. And I don't see it getting any better really. As fast as one thing dies down, another one flares up somewhere. You know, and we still might have a flare up out in the China Sea with Taiwan. That still might happen. And if it was going to happen, I think pretty soon might be to the advantage of who will be the attacker. Because the people that would be defending are elsewhere. They're halfway around the world, the other side. Thanks to another one that thought they'd just walk in, win and walk away. And they're still there. Yeah. We've won. Well, why are you still there then? We've obliterated all of their nuclear facilities. So why are you still worried about them then? Why are you still there? I think the word delusional comes in again. But again, it's I will not lose at any cost. Then you're not out there. You're not out there sat on the boat, are you? You're not out there sat in one of the American bases in one of the other Middle Eastern countries. You're not there, are you? Might be different if you were. And as for our Russian friend, you probably notice he don't poke his nose outside the door very often nowadays. Yeah. I can remember once, you know, they said that half the world was frightened of, what was it, Bin Laden. And, you know, he said he lives in a cage and craps in a bucket. And half the world's afraid of him. And that was true. Yeah, you become the aggressor, you become a target. That's definite. As our friend over the seas has found out on several occasions. Think how different the world would be if a certain young man had spent a bit more time at rifle practice instead of mucking about with his phone. I don't wish that sort of thing on anybody, but how different the world would be. Yes, not all good. Right, we've done things going on out here, stuff going on in the garden. Quite honestly, it's been raining every day. It was raining this morning when I got up. It's dried out a bit now. The rain is forecast to be heavy with thunder and lightning again tomorrow and into Tuesday. And we're just in unsettled weather. What's happened is the jet stream that was above us, which meant we had high pressures, which was all the dry weather and the bit of a heat wave we had. The jet stream's now kinked the other way and it's below us, which means we get a constant stream of low pressures now, which brings in the rain and the unsettled weather and the wind. One of my bonsai trees blew off the staging. Luckily it didn't crack the pot and didn't damage the tree. I put it back up there, 5 minutes later it was down again. So I've actually tied it on. I've actually tied the pot to the bench. And several of my other pots have blown over. We've had some pretty strong winds recently. So nothing much is happening outside. I pruned some of the plants in some of the tubs and dug them out of that corner over there and put them out where they can get some sun. So at least they'll start growing. And at some point I will get that last decking board down on the decking. But again, you know, they're not working doing that sort of thing in the rain. So it's got to wait for some better weather. Now, a fair bit of yesterday and most of this morning I've been doing my year-end accounts and year-end reports for the Orchid Society's AGM. And it's a faff. It's doable, but I do get, well, I suppose you could call it brain fog or brain fatigue sometimes. I'm not that good at numbers, but what I do, because I've got to add up lots of columns and things, I could use a calculator, but that means I've got to key them in. So what I do is I have a little spreadsheet alongside that's empty, but it's got a box at the bottom that totals whatever goes in above it. So if I've got like in January, lots of people pay their subscriptions. Well, in the day book, they're individual entries. Well, what I do is I just select the values in the column and then copy and paste them into the little blank spreadsheet, and it adds them up for me. It gives me a total, which is what I need for the year-end stuff. Because basically I have an income year-end statement which is by month and by subject. Yeah, so I've got to go and get those values from the daybook, and a lot of them are multiple entries, so they need adding up. So it's a faff. And of course those are running spreadsheets as well, so as I'm putting the monthly values in by subject, they're totaled at the bottom, and then across the bottom gives me an actual total income for the year. So it's all done by spreadsheets, but still got to have the stuff entered into it. And then there's another one for expenses. Once I've got those two totals, I've got our profit and loss statement, and then I've got to do a report, which is a written report that I basically read out quite a bit of. So that's again getting all the figures out of the spreadsheets and putting them into the Word document. It's a faff. And the people who are going to sit there at the AGM don't appreciate what goes on for these sort of things, you know. I mean, there'll be a chairman's report. You know, all these things have to be sat down and thought of and written out, sort of thing, ready for the day. It's effort goes into those sort of things. There's a plant auction at the AGM. All the sheets have got to be done, so that, you know, when somebody bids on something and they win, they get given a ticket with what they bought and how much they paid for it. And then at the end, people come up to me with their tickets, and I've got to add them up, and they owe me that amount of money. Well, that's going to be a bit easier this year, because I'm hoping people will pay on their card or on their phone on our new card machine. Because then I haven't got to muck about with change and notes and money. Some things are easier than not having money. Anyway, it'll be a combination of all three, I suspect. So, and then the next day or the day after, I've got to sit down and put all that sort of stuff back into the books, yeah, and then get all the stuff ready to go and bank everything away. So, you know, and all this is going on in the background while people just sit there with their arms folded, you know, expecting things to just happen magically. And if it wasn't for those few that do virtually all the work, then things like societies wouldn't exist, you know. Charities and things, people didn't volunteer and stuff, they wouldn't exist, would they? And the good work that is done by a lot of those things wouldn't happen. So it's quite important that some individuals put themselves out. And the role that I chose, treasurer, for somebody who's not very good at figures or maths, seems like a daft idea, but I'm okay, I'm pretty good with spreadsheets. And I know how to use a calculator, so that's my way. You know, I don't do all the maths. Things do it for me, and I'm happy with that sort of thing. I'm okay with working out formulas and stuff in spreadsheets, so I'm okay, I can manage. And I inherited the basis for the way that I work from the previous treasurer. I've expanded and advanced those spreadsheets and workings a hell of a lot to get it the way I want it. It's also going to be very easy to hand it over one day when I've had enough, and we shall see when that will be. I've had no intentions of that had enough period coming up in the near future. I'm quite happy doing it at the moment. What would mess it up is if for some reason or other I can't drive anymore, so I won't be able to get to the meetings. I had a look and I could get there on public transport, but I couldn't take anything with me. Basically, the bus stops at the end of the road, the meeting's on a Saturday afternoon, so I've got plenty of time to get there, because I can't use my bus pass until 9:30, although I think on Saturday you can use it any time. Either way, I'd have plenty of time. So I get the bus from the end of the road, that stops right outside Christchurch train station. I then get a train to Southampton Central, where I have to change and get on another one that stops. It's actually a station in the village where our meeting place is, our little community hall is, and it's like a 200-yard walk. So I could actually get there by public transport. I'd probably get home quite late, but being on a Saturday, the bus would be free either end, and would it be possible to get a bus from Southampton rather than a train? Because that's the only thing, trains are not cheap nowadays, but you know, I mean, if I can't drive anymore, then I wouldn't have a car. So the expense of running a car and putting fuel in it can go to, you know, public transport when I need it. Talking of public transport, I've had my x-ray, that was on Friday morning. That was uneventful. Blink and you miss it. Like a flipping conveyor belt. I found somewhere to park where I didn't have to pay. I found that using Google Maps. There's a little cul-de-sac. It's actually inside the entrance to the hospital, where they put up a load of new buildings, where they knocked that part of the hospital down a long time ago, and they built some nice houses in a quiet little area, and part of that hasn't got yellow lines, so providing you can find a space, which there were several spaces, so I found one of them. Short walk, found where I had to go up to reception and register that you're there, so that the people you need to see, you know, can come out and call you. I got called 10 minutes early, which probably meant that the people that should have been there at that time hadn't registered yet, hadn't got there yet, so I got in early. You basically go in, hello Mr. Frampton, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so, have you ever had an x-ray before? No, not as far as I know. Okay, if you can put your jacket on the table there, take your shirt off for me. If you come over here and you stand here, it'll be cold when you touch it, and put your arms here, and when I say now, can you take a nice deep breath and hold it? About a 5-second gap. Now. Okay, that's that done. You can put your shirt back on, and you don't need to see anyone on the way out, and it's out to the left. Crikey, that was quick. Literally. As I said it almost. Yeah, so that's done. I won't know the results of that for a while. She said it can take a couple of weeks before the GP that requested it actually gets to see the results. But the annoying thing, while I was on about transport, my scan and chat with a heart consultant, a proper one, specialist, is at Poole Hospital. That's a faff. That really is a faff. And there's no choice. That is in an area where you can't park anywhere near it. It's main roads either side. It's like in a V. Main roads, yellow lines on the little side roads. Poole Park is just there. There's no parking in there. So I'm going to have to go in the multi-storey and pay, much to my annoyance. And the trouble is, when you go to a thing like that, I don't know how long I'm going to be. So how long do I pay for? You know, I hate paying to park. Plus I've got to get there. It's an unknown journey on the grounds. I haven't driven to Poole for years. I don't know what the traffic's going to be like. I don't even know which is the... I know several ways to get there, but I don't know which is going to be the best one to choose. I shall have to have a look. And all I've got at the moment is a letter to say that this event is coming up and you will be contacted with the date and time. So I don't know when I'm going yet. All I've had is a letter saying that the event will take place. It's been requested and they will organise it. Would have been a hell of a lot easier if it had been at Bournemouth Hospital, where I know where it is and I know where I can park. And I know my way around. I've been in there a few times to see other people and stuff. So yeah, I've got to go to Poole. It's a pain. It's about a 6-7 mile drive. So it's not the end of the world. It's just all through traffic type places. There's no easy way to get there really. Not from here anyway. Yeah, so that's coming up. I got my new tablets, the statins. Which I've been taking since Monday at the beginning of the week. There are no side effects as yet, none that I've noticed, nothing. In fact, the only side effect I've got, it could be coincidence, it might be nothing to do with these tablets, but every now and again my feet and ankles were swelling up a bit, which is part and parcel of why this might not be working as well as it should. That is one of the signs. They've all gone back to normal. I can see my ankle bones sticking out again. Could be coincidence. But one of the things that particular statin does is reduces swellings. And that's anywhere where there are any, if you see what I mean. So, you know, so maybe it's the tablets, in which case I have a benefit side effect. Because that, in some instances, not often, but occasionally, I couldn't get my trainers on because my feet were too big. I mean, I wear my open sandals most of the time in the summer because you know, I don't get cold or hot feet. I get feet that are ignorable. I don't need to worry about them under normal circumstances. So yeah, so that's that. That's what's going on with that. What else? Oh, we had. I've decided to have another go at, well, not another go at, but a more effort going into the diet to see if I can get rid of this podge. I did say to the doctor when I went in, you know, and she said, some people have real trouble getting rid of that type of fat, basically, and they can really struggle. They lose weight and, you know, I mean, I haven't got wings, I haven't got fat legs, you know, my neck doesn't start at my ears and go to my shoulders. I'm not a fat person, but this is. I just can't get rid of this bit. And she said, some people have real difficulty with that. But I've decided to have another push. So we've decided to go mainly carnivore, go down that route. So eggs, fish and meat. Now I don't eat many carbs. You know, I've already cut out bread. I don't have biscuits and cake and all that sort of stuff. I don't eat crisps and stuff. I have done, but I haven't done for some time. So, you know, there aren't many carbs around. I don't have dairy to any extent. I've got some fat-free, healthy gut type fruit yogurts that I have for lunch sometimes, not every day, but some days I'll have a yogurt and some walnuts as my lunch, very light lunch. Don't have big lunches because I had my eggs for breakfast. That's what I have for breakfast, and then my evening meal is more sort of like a normal meal. But last night I decided, we've got a thing in this country, well it's not in this country, but it's close by, and they're called Jersey Royal new potatoes. They come from the island of Jersey. They're unique to that island, something to do with the soil type and the variety, and that's where they grow, and they're only available this time of year for about 6 weeks and then they're gone. So they're a bit special and they are incredibly tasty. They're very nice flavour, lovely texture, they're really nice. So when I have a home shop, I've been getting a small bag of those, and that does potatoes for 3 meals. That's the only potatoes I have, because I cut potatoes out along with rice and pasta and all that sort of stuff. And last night, when I had my home shop, I have mackerel fillets because it's fresh, and that's my oily fish. So that's around once a week, maybe a bit less, once 8 days, every so much. So that's my omega-3 and my oily fish, which is good for you and that. And I have that as fresh fish when I have my stuff delivered. So I had that on Friday with some of these nice new potatoes. That's all. Didn't have any other veg with it or anything. And then last night I treated myself. I had a rump steak, some more of these new potatoes and some corn, some sweet corn. I can safely say that is the worst steak I have ever come across in my life. If it had been in a restaurant, I'd have sent it back and demanded a total replacement. I left half of it because it was just gristle that I couldn't even attempt to chew. Couldn't cut it. It was just the most appalling piece of meat I've ever come across. So that completely messed me meal up, basically. I was looking forward to that as well. Duh. Still, that's, you know, it's the luck of the draw. And who knows, I mean, when you have your shopping delivered, somebody else is picking it for you. They go round with the list and, you know, they choose. They're supposed to go round and choose the one they would choose for themselves, not the worst one on the shelf. But then they're on a timer, they've got to get things done in a hurry, like everything nowadays. But anyway, that was the worst steak I've ever come across, worst piece of meat I've ever come across, ever. It was awful. So half of it got thrown away, which is also a waste of money. I don't like wasting food. My plates are always empty. I don't ever waste any food. If I put it out, I eat it. And I don't eat a great deal at the best of times. So my daughter says you don't eat enough to feed a sparrow. But, you know, if I'm going to continue to lose weight, albeit very gradual, then I can't keep stuffing it in here. As a comedian once said, you gain weight because this hole is bigger than that one. Which is not quite true, but you know, but, you know, the principle. So, but yeah, so we're having another go with the diet. Of course, I've got a problem now. That rodent has just run across there again. So it's still around and it still likes to run up there and then go back into the undergrowth. I can't put the traps down anymore now because I've got the hedgehog in the garden. And, you know, they're both nocturnal as well as come out in because I've seen the hedgehog in the daytime several times. So I can't put the trap down now. I'd hate to think that I'd clobbered a hedgehog. So I'm stuck with them now. I'll just have to put up with them. Because the thing is, you never know whether your hedgehog's still there or gone. Just because you haven't seen it for a few days doesn't mean to say it's left your garden. So I'm stuck now, which is a shame. But as I said, I'm not even sure that the rats in the garden are even based in this garden. They could be coming in from out in the alleyway, they could be coming in from next door, which the bottom of their garden is just undergrowth, it's just a jungle. So, you know. Well, as are parts of mine, you know, where you've got undergrowth right down to the ground, like or where the bamboo is and that. So they're never going to be gone completely, because even if I get rid of the ones I've got, more will come. This countryside's just over there, it's the other side of the road, you know. So they're going to be around, and, you know, just have to learn. As long as they don't come in the house, they don't really do any harm. So there we go. But, yeah, it is a nuisance, but that's something you just have to put up with, and so be it. So, how long have I been waffling? It don't have to go on sometimes. It looks like it's long enough, quite honestly. The only thing, no, I'm not going to show you that because it wouldn't be fair. I was going to say I have got something that's a bit special, but I did it as a members only video. So within a couple of days, if I show you, that's not very fair on the members only, who are supposed to get treats, you know, as part of the support for the channel. So yes. Now I've lost at least one member on Patreon, but I've gained a deluxe member. That's somebody who pays the higher contribution on YouTube. And I've got a feeling there might be more than one. So when I process this video, I will adjust the end screen, the roll call at the end, you know, in a galaxy far, far away bit, that bit at the end, to actually take off the name on Patreon. That takes a bit of working out, because they won't tell you who's gone, they just tell you who's left. So I've got to compare the lists on Patreon with my list to find the one that's gone missing. Which is fair enough. I mean, as I said, times are hard nowadays, and you know, some people might need the money for themselves or whatever, or perhaps want to support a different channel. There's all sorts of reasons. But yeah, I will get the new ones onto the YouTube list so that they're there. But they get highlighted because I've got the ones that are members, and then at the end, you know, I've got a separate bit for new members so that they show up, so that they're sort of highlighted a bit, so there's so you will get your name in lights, so to speak. And thank you very much for those people. It's appreciated, especially coming in at the higher level. That is appreciated. So there we go. That's that. And as always, at the end of the video, we do all our other thank yous. It's not just thank yous for members, although they are greatly appreciated, but watching the videos, subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Doesn't cost anything despite the name, because where you see the word subscribe you think of subscription, and that's payment, isn't it? There's no payment to subscribe to YouTube channels. It's just something you can do, and you don't have to switch notifications on, but it helps the channel, helps YouTube see the channel growing, and as does the thumbs up. That is a couple of seconds of your time, and it's under your nose if you're watching the video. So if you're watching it on YouTube, it's there. If you're watching it on your phone, it's there. The only place it's of no use whatsoever is on the TV, because you can't do anything. But you can switch over to your phone and do it. So there's that. And also just watching the videos, whacking in a few of the adverts or part of them. It all helps the channel progress, and as long as YouTube sees it's progressing, it will do an amount of promotion for any new videos that come up. And don't forget your hype. You get 3 of them on Monday morning, nice fresh batch. They only last a week. If you don't use them, they get written off. You get new ones, but you don't keep the old ones. You get 3, and you can use them all on one video. You can use them on 3 different videos. You can use them all on one channel. You can use them on different channels, but you get 3, and they're free, and they help put points against individual videos that YouTube then pushes them higher up the promotions list. Yeah, so the more hypes a video gets, the more people that video will be stuck under the nose of via YouTube, the more chance new people have got of seeing one of your videos and possibly coming in, joining your channel. So that's what the hypes are for. It helps promote videos for what YouTube sees as the smaller channels. So it's a useful thing to do. I usually do mine on Monday or Tuesday when I get my news set. I don't ever waste them. I've never missed them. I always get them done. I think the fact that YouTube have done it and bothered to put that software together, I think it should be used. It's a good thing to have. So there we go. Videos coming up this week. As I say, there's not much going on in the garden really. It's called the June Gap, and it's a lot of gardens haven't got much going on. They're waiting for new stuff to come into bloom, and the spring stuff's gone over. So there's like a gap, and it's also, depending on how the seasons are going, it's a known thing in the butterfly world as well, the June Gap, where the spring flying butterflies, a lot of those have finished, and the summer and the woodland ones haven't started yet. So there's a bit of a lull. I haven't got much in the garden for the butterflies apart from the valerian, the red valerian, and the scabious, and not a lot else. There's not a lot else in bloom at the moment. The butterflies. Butterflies don't go on the roses, but some of the bees do. So yeah. And Buddleia, the one that didn't die, the white one, that's showing some buds on the tips of the top growths. Unfortunately, they're about to get pruned down to make it branch and get a lot more blooms. Okay, they'll be later in the year. I could just wait and let it bloom and then prune it as those blooms start to die off, and then it'll shoot out. I might even do that this year for a change, just do it different to last year. So say the two big, the dark purple one and the normal pinky purple one, like the wild ones, they both died. They didn't survive the winter. Effectively they drowned. The exit hole in the pot got completely bunged up, and the pot actually filled up with water. You know, the top 2 or 3 inches with no soil in it was a puddle. So that the plants drowned basically, and because of the bad weather I didn't go out there and notice it, if you see what I mean. So that's that done. I got a feeling the blackbirds in the corner of the garden may have fledged, because the panic of the adults toing and fromming the corner of that garden seems to have just stopped. So hopefully they've fledged okay. I haven't seen any in the garden, but you know, they don't necessarily stay. Once they come out of the nest, they're normally able to fly a bit. So I mean, they can head off and follow their parents to wherever the parents think it's safer for them to be. So that's that. But yeah, the birds that have nested around here, don't ask me where. I don't need to know where, I just know that they have, because of the patterns that I see. Goldfinches, they come on the feeder frequently every day now, just the pair. I haven't seen the youngsters, so maybe the youngsters are still being fed in the nest and they haven't actually fledged yet. So goldfinches, there's a pair of hedge sparrows, or dunnocks as they're now called. There's at least 1 pair of blackbirds, possibly 2. There are several pairs of blue tits and several pairs of great tits. There's a pair of robins, there's a pair of wrens. So in the vicinity there are quite a few birds nesting that come in the garden, you know, on a regular basis. The blackbirds and the hedge sparrows, they're ground feeders, so they hang around, they peck around the bottom of the bird feeder. All the others are acrobats, so they land on the hanging seed holders. So yeah, wrens don't do either. They don't come anywhere near the feeders. They don't have nothing to do with them. But, yeah. So there's some nice activity. It's nice to know that they're nesting nearby. I mean the hedge sparrows tend to nest low down in quite dense undergrowth. Not on the ground, but not far off it. You don't very often find any of their nests higher than sort of 1.5 meters maximum. Blackbirds are anything from 1 meter off the ground to 2 or 3 meters off the ground. Goldfinches tend to be 2 or 3 meters off the ground. They don't nest near the ground at all. Wrens nest in dense undergrowth, like in ivy against a wall or something like that, quite low down normally. Blue tits and great tits nest in holes. That can be holes in buildings, holes in trees, all sorts of places. And robins nest in the most peculiar places. They'll nest in an old hat in a garden shed if they've got access to the shed. You know, they'll nest in a flower pot, they nest anywhere. Their nest can be right on the ground, it can be raised up a bit, it can be on a shelf in a barn or something. So yeah, they're quite flexible in their nest sites. So yeah. And as far as butterflies in the garden, as I said, the June gap is active now. There's not a lot around at all. I've had a variety in the garden this spring, but it's the normal ones. I've only had 1 orange tip that I'm aware of. Don't forget, I don't necessarily see them when they visit, because if they don't stop, they only fly through and then they're gone. Well, if I'm not looking out the window, I don't see them. So orange tip, yes. Speckled wood, peacock, red admiral, brimstone, 5, holly blue, small white, and probably large white, although that was an iffy sighting because it was a bit quick. So 8 different butterflies. There might be a few different ones as the season progresses. It's possible to get common blues in the garden, had them before. We haven't had small tortoise shells, we haven't had painted ladies. So there are some others that could occur in the garden, but there's not much to hold them here at the moment, that's the problem. But then most of them, orange tips are spring only, they only tend to have one brood. Brimstones, again, they're an early flyer, but they have second and sometimes third broods, but they would be in the June gap. Speckled woods have many broods, so they can be around any time of year. Red admirals, peacocks, small tortoise shells, multiple broods, so again, once the June gap's over they could be around. Painted ladies do survive our winter now, they never used to, but they are heavily loaded up with migrants coming across the channel when the winds are in the right direction. Sometimes they can come across in hundreds to quite a small area. You're suddenly flooded with them. It's like an invasion sometimes. So yeah, but yeah, there's not much around, and the weather we've got at the moment is not conducive to butterflies, because heavy winds and rain, you know, they tend to just hunker down and keep under cover. Yes, so anyway, thanks for listening, thanks for dropping by and all that sort of stuff. Videos coming up this week. I doubt if I'll be repotting the tiger tail, but I might. I'll give it a good look over and see whether I think it's in a position to split and repot. And I'll have a look at the list at the other cymbidiums that are on the list to repot, because they will be in a position, because all of the others have got new growths in some shape or form. We've already done the showgirl, that's already been done. We've done the emergency one, the copper, the one that was rotting, and hopefully saved it. Tiger tails on the list. There's only a couple of others, but you know, they will be in growth now, so they're capable of being done. And as you saw with the other one, they can be hard, heavy duty work. Sometimes you're looking at an effort just to get them out of the pot, and then they don't like being divided. You know, they're quite tough old birds, so they do take a bit of effort, and it's physical effort. It's like a workout, without having to go to the gym and put up with smelly feet and sweaty bodies. That's why I don't go. I hate gymnasiums, especially I don't like that communal effort, and I certainly don't like the horrible smells in the changing rooms. So it's something I've never done. Yeah. Doesn't mean to say I don't exercise, although at the moment I don't. Very minimal, simply because I don't know the effect. Yeah. Because I know that if I start doing stuff, I'm out of breath very quickly, or short of breath quite quickly. So I'm overloading this. So if I start doing exercise, we could overload it over the top. So I think it's safer not to. Some will disagree, but it's me, it's mine, that's what I'm doing. Keep your opinions to yourself. I've had a good think and a good read, and that's what I've come up with is best for me at the moment. So anyway, I will see you next time. There will be some videos during the week, obviously. I'm not quite sure what. I was just wondering whether I can get at, because I haven't even shown you an orchid yet, have I? I can get at one that I will show you, because it's going to be, it isn't yet, but it's going to be quite spectacular in the not too distant future. So let's put my cold coffee down, try not to ouch, try not to kick the tripod, try not to knock loads of plants over, and we'll see if we can get at this one. It's also heavy, it's a big one, and it's heavy. Ugh. Right, kick the tripod. Right, so my infundibulum, that's probably off camera at the moment, is that very tall dendrobium that sits on that bench because it's in flower. Has large white flowers with a gold centre, you know, a deep yellow bordering on orange, which I call a gold colour. This is my other black hair type dendrobium. This has got no ID. I don't actually know what it is, but it does have a lot of buds. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 9 or 10 buds on that growth, and then over here over here on this smaller cane we've got another 3. As you can see, the buds are pushing on now. They won't be too long before they open. Unfortunately, they don't grow very long stems to the blooms, so this cluster of blooms will be facing in all directions, but they will squash up against each other, you know, which means some of the petals or sepals might be sort of bent. That's just how this one grows. We've got no sign of new canes yet, but as it's coming into bloom, that's probably natural. The infundibulum over there, the blooms have been out a very long time, and the new cane is now about 6-7 inches long, so that one's in growth. It's only got 1 new cane, which is what it's done in recent years, whereas this one usually puts up 2, because effectively it's growing in 2 directions. So this was the previous cane and this is the new one, and then over this side this was the previous cane and this is the new one. Oh, actually that was the previous cane, this one. Still leaved. Eventually they do go deciduous, but it's after a couple of years. So anyway, that's going to be quite a show in the near future, and the blooms will be very similar to infundibulum. They're almost identical. So that's that, and yes, on that note, I will see you next time in whatever the next video is. Thanks for dropping by. Bye for now.